Welcome to Living Like Vacation, the show where we live our best life and find others doing the same. I'm Joe.
And I'm Gary.
And today we have Doug Brisotti, who is an author, a licensed boat captain, and also works in the radio business. So welcome, Doug. Welcome to our show.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, glad to have you. Well, today we're going to talk about Doug's many talents here on how he likes to live like vacation. But first we want to mention the sponsor. So tonight's sponsor, who do we have?
Tonight's sponsor is, well, we're on the Mary Elizabeth.
We are.
So,
Yes, and Doug's an author, so we're, obviously, it's Doug's the author, so that's our sponsor today.
we're celebrating the whole series.
And
Yes.
we'll say next chapter charters will be
That could be another sponsor. Yes.
nextchaptercharters.com.
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect. So I have a question. What's the most fun that you've had on a boat?
Oh gosh. I started boating when I was like 4 years old, so that's kind of a tough question because I think you've got times in your life that's the most fun you're having at that time in your life. So my first time sailing with my grandfather, where I was small enough. I'm almost small enough now still to get under that bow on the O'Day in order to put the cotter pin in the bottom of the sail. That was, to me, the best thing in the world. Later on in life, kind of getting my captain's license, which is just in the last 3 years I've done that, even though I've run boats my entire life. I never stopped. Recorded all the days that I had on the water and done that Coast Guard course that I needed to do. So passing that was a pretty cool thing.
That is cool.
And but other than that, I mean, any day you're on the water, and we're sitting on the water right now. You can't really tell we're not moving. But any day you're sitting on the water is a pretty good day, regardless of whether you've left the dock or not.
What about you, Gary?
So I did not, I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. I was born there. Then I grew up in the Topsail Island, Holly Ridge area, but didn't spend a lot of time on boats. But definitely more when I moved to New Bern and in this area. But the best time I've ever had on a boat was right before we decided to have a child. We took a trip to the British Virgin Islands, and we rented, it was a big group of us, and we rented 3 sailboats, and we raced around for 7 days, and that's definitely the number one, and one of the probably the best vacations I've ever had as well.
Were you guys running the boats, or did you have captains on them?
No, we were on them each.
Wow.
There was somewhat of a qualified person on each boat.
Yeah.
So actually, our boat actually did have a captain that was one of the friends, but the other ones were semi-qualified. So we won pretty much all the days except for one, I believe. But we were on like big catamarans.
Right.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. How about you, Joe?
My favorite boat story is not even really doing anything, sailing or being on the water, I guess. Several years ago, there was a concert that was going on in Wilmington, and there's that new entertainment facility down there. And we could not find a room in Wilmington. And so randomly, as a group of guys, we got a yacht. We all split it. And we partied on that yacht, and we had a blast. I mean, we didn't go anywhere. And in fact, my wife told me, she's like, Joe, do not fall in the water. I'm like, we're not going anywhere. Do not fall in the water.
I've seen that yacht. I was looking at a concert recently, and it was still.
It was there. It was great. I mean, all I wanted to do was have a place to crash it. We crashed on that. We partied on that. It was honestly the most fun I've had randomly on a boat.
Nice.
But yeah.
Nice.
I used to take people when I lived in South Florida for 15 years, and down there had a couple boats, and I would take people for the Christmas parade, and we would spend the day before just decorating the boat. And by the end of the day, I don't know what the boat looked like, but the dock normally had a few bottles of champagne. And one year we actually won, which was amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Those are good decorations. Tell me now. We just talked about some of the things that you do. You have a lot of hobbies. What's the most rewarding thing for you?
I think anyone would say being a father.
Yeah.
And it's not cliche. I've got.
You cover that one.
Thank you. I've got 2 really great daughters. My oldest, Kira, is in D.C. and she works for a large contractor. She's a project manager up there and just doing absolutely wonderfully. And my youngest is at State. She's a junior. And soon will be out in the world, which is blowing my mind away. I've got 21 and a 23-year-old. Yeah, it's crazy. But I think that I lived it a little bit different way because their mom and I were separated when they were pretty young, and I lived in Florida. They were in Florida for a while before going back to North Carolina. So trying to make that connection and making sure that we stayed connected was a little bit more effort, but wow, just completely worth it. And seeing where they are today, and I was able to come back to Greensboro, North Carolina, where they lived for their high school years, and be the announcer on their soccer games, which was probably one of the best things in life. Just when you announce that your daughter just scored a goal, or
was it a goal? Did you have that down?
Only the first time.
Stop it, Dad.
Like, Daddy, no.
Oh goodness. Well, we're on this yacht right now, the Mary Elizabeth. You can go online and you can find the boat. Now the website for the boat.
nextchaptercharters.com.
nextchaptercharters.com. And so I want you to tell me a little bit about how that came about. Like so you've got this license, this captain's license. Like, okay, now I'm taking people out. I mean, how did that come about?
I'm not sure. I think it may have been reversed, actually. It was
Okay.
kind of like the idea to get the boat was, how do I write it off?
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Figure
Makes
it's a
sense.
business expense, which, starting in 2020 was a bad idea because, COVID came in and kind of ended anything that we were able to do there. But the whole concept, I've been boating my entire life, as I said, and I started working on boats when I was in high school. I worked on Fire Island ferries on Long Island. And that was so much fun to me. Like, that started the whole navigation side of it, not just being on the water, but also looking at the instruments and seeing where the destination was and figuring out that route so you didn't run aground, keeping your passengers safe and getting people there. And that's the way I've always operated boats. So when the license came on, it was just kind of the natural thing to say, let's go ahead and do a charter business. We thought about doing an Airbnb, but Sarah, my fiance, we got on the boat, and she goes, I'm not letting anyone stay on this boat if we're not here. So we didn't do that.
Well, if she would have been at that party boat that we were on, I totally agree with her.
Joe didn't get his deposit back.
It didn't happen to be Mad Hatteras, was it?
No.
Deborah would be upset. So I think it was really... we knew we wanted to we were looking for a house in Beaufort, and when that didn't come together, we had been looking at boats as well. We got a little bit more serious about the boat search, and then I took Sarah to look at this really, really bad boat. It was on the hard. It was a 25-foot ladder to get up there to look at this thing, and it was rotting. And we went from that boat to this boat. She said, that's more like it. And this boat's beautiful. The former owner, Russ, had kept her great. The previous owners, one was an engineer at Grumman on Long Island, and just really added a lot to this boat. So it came down to making this ours. And we looked at the stern, and Sarah said, Mary Elizabeth, that's my grandmother's name.
Oh, wow.
And I looked at her and said, that's my grandmother's name. And we didn't know it.
Wow.
Yeah, we
That's
didn't know.
pretty cool.
Yeah. So we were like, well, that's our boat. And Russ and we decided not to buy it. And 2 months later, Russ called and said, let's sit down for dinner in New Bern.
Mm-hmm.
And we had dinner, and at the end of dinner, we owned the boat.
Yeah.
Well,
You
is
looked at
awesome.
2 boats and then bought
Well,
one.
no, 3 years later.
Oh, okay. All right.
Those were the last 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it took
seems
3
like
years.
A lot of the fun would be definitely doing the research and going on the different boats and
Yeah.
putting yourself on the boat. This is where I would like to be.
And we stayed on different boats.
Yeah.
I'd been around boats my entire life, but Sarah had not. So getting her onto a trawler and getting her onto a motor yacht and getting her onto a convertible and a sport fish and getting the feel of what each of those boats feels like, they're all different.
Yeah.
So she just fell in love with this boat as soon as she stepped on it, though.
And what kind of boat is this?
This is a motor yacht. This is a 43-foot Hatteras, 1986 43-foot Hatteras motor yacht.
Hatteras. That's where I was going.
Yeah.
Probably made in New Bern, North Carolina.
Yes.
It was actually made in High Point, North Carolina.
This was made in High Point? This was before they moved to New Bern?
This is before they moved to New Bern.
Oh, okay.
The top that's right up there was taken off. They were put on trucks and trucked to New Bern, where they were put back together, and everything was connected, and then it was launched into the creek there in New Bern, just off the
How
news.
about that?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
In 1986, and some of the guys who worked on this boat still live in the area and have come onto this boat to do some work that we needed, and they're like, I think I remember this boat. Like, how do you remember this boat?
incredible.
But it was 1985 when it was being built, and they were in the plant, and they were on the 43 motor yacht line. So
That's cool.
yeah, it's pretty neat.
That's
The connection that
incredible.
New Bern has is amazing with this boat.
Yeah. So, all right. So we've got charter boat captain, possible Airbnb, but we scrapped that.
Scrap that.
We've got an author. You're an author. You're in the radio business. What else? Is that all for work? wise.
I do voiceovers every now and then.
Voiceovers every now and then. If you're doing all these things, how do you find time to live like vacation?
Oh, I think making my work part of that is it. When I walk into a meeting, Joe, you and I do a lot of the same things on a daily basis, and the one thing I know is that when I leave, they will remember me. I know you're the same way, and it's because I think I approach it differently. This is fun. No one's going to die because a radio spot didn't run. So it's kind of, I treat it very lightly, but important, if that makes sense. And so from a work standpoint, I make sure that that's always fun. I've got clients who have actually been on this boat. They've come down, they've been down in Beaufort, so they've been here. We try and do a lot of social things. I saw one of your guys' podcasts where somebody was talking about taking meetings downtown. I think you were talking about it. Taking meetings downtown. I don't meet in offices very often. We're always out somewhere. We might be sitting outside, but we're outside. We're at a restaurant, or having a drink, or having some food, or something like that. So that's part of it.
I would definitely take a meeting on this boat.
I would too. Yeah. Who wouldn't want to do that? I'm jealous.
Our annual shareholder meeting, Joe.
That's right.
Okay. Come on down.
Sorry.
Well, Joe, you now have a Beaufort office.
Oh, that's great.
What did I just have? But to me, it's not a time thing; it's an energy thing, right? I have a lot of energy, but I spend my energy efficiently. I spend my energy on joy, and my work is part of that joy, But I also get, I sat here today and I was working today on this boat.
Yeah.
Sitting as the sun set, I'm still working away on my computer here. I write, probably 80% of every book is written on this boat. Whether I'm here or my Boston Whaler is sitting next to us right here. I'm not sure you guys saw it when you came up, but I'll take that over to Shackleford Banks and just run the boat up onto the shore, have my computer in my lap, and I'll write for 3 hours.
Okay, so it's not a certain spot on the boat. No. It could be just outside.
It could be, as long as I don't have a lot of distractions, then I'm fine. And so, but it's funny because my phone is next to me if I'm writing during the day and I get a work call, I'll take a work call, and then I'll go right back to writing. And I thought that would be a distraction, and it hasn't been.
Do you write a freehand, just a
no,
notepad?
No, I'm typing.
No, it's always typing.
Yeah, early on I wrote freehand, and the first paragraph of my first book was written in freehand 15 years ago. But when it became a book in September 19, that it was kind of drawn straight from the computer.
Gary and I talk about this a lot, that the whole living like vacation concept is a mindset. You got to get yourself kind of prepared. You can't just all of a sudden get there.
Right.
So what you're talking about, the energy, is sort of something you have to, I don't know that you psych yourself up for it, but you make time for it. It's like an awareness.
It's a conscious choice.
Yeah.
I lived in South Florida for a long time, and it's funny. I used to say I love Florida. I'm not sure I like Floridians. Sorry, Florida. No, I found out that I actually did like Floridians, but there was a lot of people that get into your life down there, especially business-wise, that you spend a lot of energy on, that results in absolutely nothing for you, for them, for anybody, and kind of making the choice to not spend that energy, which is time. You're consuming time, but the energy suck of somebody who is doesn't deserve your time.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It just isn't. And that can come off harsh sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's true. I had an ad agency a long time ago, and I used to tell everyone that works for me, I believe in short periods of pain over long periods of struggle, which means that when I interact with you, I may say something that hurts, but it's because I see you struggling, and I want to shorten that struggle. And being truthful with you is the way I'm going to do it. And it might sting for a little bit, but you'll see why later. And I think that worked out.
Yeah, that's good.
So talk to us about your writing. We talked about this a little earlier when we were setting up that, you started writing, was it 20 years ago? Was there 15?
Yeah, well, I think everything I've done comes out of writing, but the first time I ever sat down to write what I thought would be a novel was about 25 years ago.
25 years ago. Yeah. Is that what you studied in college at Guilford?
No.
Am I pronouncing that right?
Guilford, no.
Guilford, yeah. Sorry, Greensboro.
I was a business major.
Okay.
But I think Guilford is kind of it's a liberal arts college, so it's writing intensive. Anything you're doing, you're going to be writing a lot. And in high school, I was always told I was a good writer. And in college, my freshman year, I took I forget what they called it, English Lit or whatever it was, and we did a lot of writing. And the first time someone told me my writing sucked.
Oh no!
And he looked like Walt Whitman. He might have been as drunk as him. But he was very, but he was right.
But to your previous point, he was just trying to get right
Exactly.
down to it.
It was a short period of pain. It hurt.
Yeah.
It hurt. But he was right. You know, he had us, all of us, we had written these descriptive papers, and he has us come into class, and we walk in, and all the desks are around the outside walls facing the wall. And he says, take off your shoe and put it on the desk in front of you. Hands us all a piece of newsprint and a pencil and says, draw your shoe. That was our literature course for that day. And we're drawing it, and he's looking over our shoulders and just telling us what we're missing from a descriptive drawing standpoint. And the point being obvious, that we were doing the same thing in our writing. We weren't seeing the descriptions that we needed to find. But he left the room, and we're all looking at each other. What just happened? And he walks in with our papers and said, you're missing it. And he throws them on the floor and goes, do them again. And he left. And we got to do our papers again. And it was the first time I really thought about how looking deeper into something makes it so much more meaningful. And the ability to say that in words when it's pictures, you know, is a pretty cool thing.
Wow. That's pretty deep.
Yeah.
Sorry. We're still living on vacation.
Well, I'm just thinking to myself, you know, it takes sort of a conscious effort to do that. I mean, you're not, because so much of what we tend to do is rush, like on to the next task, and to really take that time and really dive into it. And this is probably why I'm not an author. You know, it's because I've never really thought about it that way. You know, so when we're looking at the book series that you have, the Grayson Cooper Adventure OBX
series, yeah.
So for the people that tune into our podcast, can you kind of bring us up to speed? You know, talk to us about what the series is about, how it kind of started, and kind of give us the backstory.
Sure. And I'll go back a little further to say where the first book came from, because I had written that paragraph that I talked about. You know, I did the 25 years ago, started that book, and when I took it back out to write it, 20 years had gone by, and there was nothing that looked like 2019. so it was time. It looked like a period piece.
Where was this writing at? Like, where did you put it?
Oh, I had stacks of books, and I still have them. It was all longhand.
Wow.
Yeah, and I still have them all, and I've transferred some of that digitally. And we were talking about a short story series that I'd like to do at some point. I had that, but that, when I found out that was not viable, I wrote one paragraph, and it was about a boat, Boston whaler, sliding up, and the main character is describing pulling the boat up and stopping the boat dead in the water, and he's recovering a dead body from the Outer Banks, from Albemarle Sound. And that paragraph, fast forward 5 years after that, I'm in Oak Island, North Carolina, and friends, I'm newly dating my now fiance, and she has like a bunch of friends there down there. And I separate myself, pick up a chair, and go like 100 yards down the beach with a notepad, and wrote for the next 6 hours on the notepad, and outlined the entire first book.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did she feel about that? You just disappeared?
Yeah, they were a little bit used to that.
Okay.
Because again, energy. So it was not uncommon that when I was done, and I would leave.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the engagement.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we got our first date was Friday the 13th, 2015.
Oh, lucky day.
And yeah, exactly. And we got engaged on Friday the 13th, 2020.
Wow. 13's a good number.
It is. It is.
Are you looking for a Friday the 13th to get married on too? Is that what you're searching for?
You know, we were thinking about that, but I think the next one's February, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so we need to think about that. We haven't set a date, and our daughters keep asking us, you know, when are we gonna get married? Her two and my two, and we haven't decided on that yet.
Well, most people get married on a Saturday, so you could really get a deal by going out on Friday too.
It's going to be on the bow of the boat.
Oh yeah.
It's already got his hotel.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice try, though.
Yeah.
I know what you're trying to do over there.
Yeah. You know how tight
Are there
they
any hotels in New Bern you'd recommend?
there is one or two.
This boat was actually at New Bern Grand.
Oh, was it?
When we
Okay.
bought it? Yeah, the first 3 months we were at New Bern Grand.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've spent 9 years at the Bridge Point.
Oh, really?
Like, we had the marina.
I've never been in it, but
The same people that built this marina built that one, the last one before it disappeared.
Yeah.
Before, it's a great marina.
yeah,
So,
very cool spot.
yeah, boating in New Bern is a wonderful community.
Yeah.
Um,
On your book series, so tell people how they can find the book, how different ways they can read it, get a hold of it.
Right. Amazon.com is the exclusive distributor of both the digital book and the paperback.
Okay.
I'm allowed to sell some in bookstores. So Scuttlebutt here in Beaufort has my books.
Okay.
And actually, the 5th book is not there yet. I'm waiting for them to be delivered to me. But they're available there. And always looking for smaller spots. It's all based in the Outer Banks. So Manio is the hometown of my main character, who's Cooper Grayson, is Grayson Cooper, who you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But Grayson's interesting because he grew up in Manio, North Carolina. He went to ECU. He was a communications major there, and he went off to New York City to be. He was a rainmaker for the largest brands in the world. He was also an alcoholic, or I should say, he is an alcoholic. As he made money for his companies that he worked for 3 during his career, and his last one was he was making a lot of money, and he had 3 events where he almost died before he was 40 years old, and it was because he was an alcoholic. So he decided, or his company decided, that he needed help, but it was a little bit too late. They had let it happen because he was the rainmaker. He kind of brought everything to that company. So they settled in order to allow Grayson to go back home to Manio so he can live comfortably without working, but he decided to create his own job, which is he recovers bodies from the Outer Banks waters for the Dare County Sheriff.
So other than that, he's kind of living like vacation too. I mean,
Yeah.
he's retiring early. He's moving down to the Outer Banks. I mean, I like where you're going with this character. Can I also make a point? You have the books here, I noticed. One thing that I noticed when I was looking online at your books, if you can see, look at these covers, Joe. These covers
They're
are
beautiful. They are beautiful.
This
What?
is my favorite, though.
Yeah.
That is.
That was actually
yes.
my...
That's right here.
Although,
Is it really? That's the bridge here?
Yep.
Oh,
That's right here.
wow.
How do you get these done?
I take the pictures. I swear I do.
No, earlier when I said, what are you? You did not list photographer.
I don't think I'm a photographer. I have an eye for something I like.
I don't know. You be the judge.
That's a good-looking picture, man.
That's a good-looking book.
Thank you. I love that picture, and actually, we're sitting right there.
That's cool.
Mary Elizabeth's in that picture.
Have you thought about photographing your own wedding?
I have now.
That's pretty funny.
You should. I'm just saying.
That would be a great idea.
I just heard Sarah scream.
Sorry, Sarah. Sorry. It's amazing. I mean, that's really that stands out. That, and you know, if it's on the rack, I'm going to go towards that. I'll
Yes,
right
I
over
appreciate
to
it.
it.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing, honestly, about writing a book. The hardest thing is the cover and the blurb on the back. They're the 2 hardest things to do. They take forever. And I published magazines for a company long ago, and that was always our big thing to take. 3.5 weeks to get a cover that we did monthly. Mm-hmm. We started the cover immediately when we had our thing. And they're not different. This takes forever to do once it's done. And I do these all by myself, so it's at some point I need to stop that. I need to get a little help, make it a little more professional.
Yeah. Well, you're a marketing guy. Who's your favorite magazine cover that you see out all the time? I know who mine is. Sorry. Quick trivia question here.
I think there's different ways to look at that, but I think Rolling Stone, to me, has a texture, that matte finish they've done, the large format that they used to do before they shrunk it down, which ticked me off when they did it. Mm-hmm. Because if you ripped a page out of Rolling Stone and let it roll down the street, you didn't have to see Rolling Stone to know that was a page from Rolling Stone.
That's true.
So I think the design was just phenomenal. So from a magazine standpoint now, boy, that's tough. Because I don't look at a whole lot of magazines anymore.
I've been in magazines big the last. I'm an R State guy. I'm gonna tell you, R State. They're these
they do
photos. They're beautiful photos.
Yeah,
Whoever's
they do.
in the photography, and I've talked to them about it, and they said apparently they have several people that do it. How about you, Joe? Do you have a favorite magazine?
Man, I'm just gonna blow your mind.
It's not gonna be. Is it Teen? Is it People? Is it People?
It's Motor Trend, man.
Of course. Of course.
Maybe
Shocker.
Porsche's all over it. I mean,
Yeah.
how am I not going to pick
Yeah.
that? Like, oh, then every year they have the 911 series. I want to pick the Porsche 911.
Yes.
It's the best cover I can
Shocker.
find. Yes.
Fair enough. He's framed the whole collection.
I've just ruined your whole concept, but I'm sorry. It's
No,
you
they're
asked me-
beautiful though. A car is a beautiful thing. You know, I get it.
That's what. I've seen your garage.
Yes.
Whatever that is.
Yeah, Club Joe. Yep.
All right. So you've lived. I mean, you currently kind of live in 3 different places, or 2.
Two.
What was that?
Yeah.
So
Greenville.
Greenville and here.
Mhm.
What's your and how many have you lived in total? You think?
Oh boy.
I mean, we were talking about it. You've been all over.
Yeah, I grew up on Long Island,
Right.
and when I was 18, came to Guilford College, and so I was at Guilford for 4 years, and then I lived in Greensboro for another 10. And Joe and I apparently probably knew each other back then,
So
although
crazy.
we didn't realize it.
Yes.
That's when he had his big moment and realized, you know, on the highway, on the freeway,
Yes.
that's where he had to leave.
You had to get out there. It was my
Yeah.
guy, man. Yep.
Good. I'm hearing the water. So I was there for 14 years in Greensboro. I had an ad agency. I sold my ad agency, and I moved to South Florida. And I went to work for Yahoo at that point. When I first moved, I lived in a town called Delray Beach, which is just one of the coolest dang towns.
Sounds like a terrible place.
Yeah,
We have a lot of
It's
fans
beautiful.
from there.
It's beautiful. I love Delray Beach. It's actually included in my first book because it also happens to be one of the rehab capitals of the world.
Oh.
And of course, my character goes there for,
Yeah.
for rehab. So I was there. Went to first to Delray Beach, but then I moved down to Fort Lauderdale shortly after that. We had a Boca Raton office. I closed that office and went and moved it. Yeah, Boca. I won't
Okay,
say.
that's all right. This is a positive show.
Exactly. But we closed the Boca office, and I moved the Yahoo office down to Miami, which was our Yahoo Latin America office, which was kind of cool. Except Miami traffic is just the worst thing in the world. So I lived in Fort Lauderdale and commuted down there each day, and I would go really early in the morning and leave around 3 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was down there for I was down in Florida for 15 years. Spent 7 down in Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and then 8 back up in Palm Beach. I was in Delray Beach and then Lantana.
And then ended up here.
And then I came back to Greensboro
Okay.
after that. We just sold our house last October, I guess a year ago, October. We bought a house in Greenville thinking we might rent it, we might move on the boat, until Sarah's daughter lived in Greenville until she gets pregnant and is going to have a baby, and we found out she was pregnant at Christmas, so she was going to have a baby. So we moved into that house, and we go back and forth. It's great. It's 90 minutes from here, so it's been really great.
So what if you had to pick one of these places that you lived? Do you have a favorite?
You're going to do that to me.
It's a fair question.
I mean, my
This is a
I'm rolling
tough
dice
show.
on Delray
Yeah,
Beach.
yeah. This
I
is a
mean,
tough show here.
No,
It's not Boca. We'll figure that out.
very perceptive. I love South Florida. We've traveled to. I love the St. Augustine area. Quite honestly, I've never lived there.
I've never been there.
Really?
Yeah.
We've run boats through there and stayed there a few days. And Sarah and her daughters, we rented a house just outside of St. Augustine for a week, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful spot.
So that's your spot?
I'd like to explore it more, but honestly, it would be the Bahamas.
Oh.
It would be the Bahamas.
Now, did you live there on a boat or anything like that? I mean, what's the attachment to the Bahamas? I mean,
From my dock in South Florida to West End, Bahama, it was 2.5 hours by boat. So we would go quite a bit over there, and a group of friends would bring their boats over in May over to the Exumas, and they would bring them back in October. I ran over with them, and so it was fun, and we would be down there quite a bit.
I
We'd
mean,
go
that's
back and forth.
Raleigh to Newbern.
that it is. Well, I think
You're
about
in
it.
Bahamas.
That's like living like vacation level 11.
Yeah.
The needle goes to 10, like it's 11.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
It was very cool, and there were some really, really good guys over there, and it's just a different life. And we didn't go to Nassau. We would spend a day in Freeport normally, one day in Nassau, but then we'd be down in the Exumas. So
Exumas,
yeah.
okay. I was going to
Yeah.
ask you what
Yeah.
part. Okay.
so we'd be down. There's a place called Compass Key where we based the boats out of, and if you ever get a chance to go there, it's just beautiful. And there's Rachel's Bubble Bath. Look it up on YouTube, and you'll see these videos of people in this natural tub that is created by the ocean blowing water through this coral wall and it's pooling into this area just on the other side of it. It's really neat.
Have you shared that in a book yet, or are you saying?
No, that's coming though.
Oh, there we go. We got a prequel. We got a prequel. Nice, Gary. Nice. Pull it right out of me.
Yeah, no, there's a Bahama trip coming up.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, thank you for being our guest and being on our show. It's great to hear. It's good to hear stories. That are different. Everybody's kind of trying to get there. To live life vacation. So I appreciate that, and want to thank our sponsors.
Rachel's Bath.
Rachel's Bubble Bath.
Bubble Bath. Rachel's Bubble Bath is definitely a sponsor now.
Yeah, it is. It is. Next Chapter Charters.
Next Chapter Charters. And then Mary Elizabeth.
Yeah. And a shout out to Grayson Cooper, man.
Grayson Cooper.
He's a cool dude.
He's a really cool
Living
dude.
like vacation.
I will say one last thing about it, though, is that I think, and this will be a nice tease for the books, is that Grayson, I think, is telling the story of his girlfriend, who they become closer, but his girlfriend, when the books start, because she's just a badass.
Oh!
She is, Magic. Zaina Majik, she's a sheriff for the Dare County office, and she's a badass.
So that's the connection, too.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, anyway.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I think it's him telling her story, quite honestly.
Ooh.
Oh. Excellent.
Well, you've got to get the books.
Yes.
Go to Amazon and look them up. It's the Grayson Cooper Adventure OBX series. Doug Brisotti, thank you very much for being on our show today. And thanks for listening. Let's live like vacation.